Okay, so we are already enough. By the way, we have more than 120 people registered, so it's a good success. So, good morning. Welcome to this webinar organized by Euroheat Power in collaboration with the European Commission and the European Investment Bank. My name is Gabriele Pesce. I am the Director of Innovation and Sustainable Finance at Euroheat Power. For those who don't know, Euroheat Power is the industrial association representing district heating and cooling. Today, informative webinar we're going to dedicate to the public sector loan facility to unlock district heating financing. We're gonna discover how useful could be this finance scheme and why it's very important, in particular for Eastern and Central European countries where district heating still relies too much on fossil fuel. Why we're going to talk about this specific finance scheme? Because, of course, we have a lot of different scheme and financial resources, but this one is one that explicitly mentioned district heating, in particular for the region that are still relying so much on coal. So today we have a great panel. We have Joanna Rylko. I hope I didn't mispronounce your name. From the project officer from DG REGIO of the European Commission, Miha Svent, advisor at the European Investment Bank, and Marcin, Idczak, energy engineer of the European Investment Bank. Thank you for being here. Joanna will present the main feature of this public sector loan facility, whereas Miha and Marcin will present some best practice and the role of the EIB in this scheme. So a little bit of housekeeping rules. So the webinar is recorded, so you can find the recording in our Euroheat Power YouTube page. The presentation will be shared, and you can, of course, pose questions. Well, I really suggest you to pose questions. We organized this webinar for you to inform you. So this is a very great occasion to liaise directly with the European Commission and the EIB to ask them whatever you want about this facility. So you can use the Q&A box on the bottom line of your screen. So I will facilitate and I will prioritize, of course, the question from the audience. The question will be posed at the end of the three presentations. So you can already type your question during the presentation, but then I will take them for the final half an hour, quarter of this webinar. Okay, without further ado, I would like to let Joanna to introduce herself and give her the floor. Please, Joanna. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gabriele, for this nice introduction, and thank you to Euroheat Power for the possibility to organize this webinar. And thank you for all you attendees for your interest in the public sector loan facility. My name is Joanna Rylko. I'm a project officer in the European Commission in the Directorate General responsible for regional and urban policy, where I'm responsible for the implementation of the public sector loan facility. To inform you how the presentation will go, I will give a brief information what PSLF, this is the abbreviation I will be using during this presentation for the public sector loan facility. So what I will give a brief overview what PSLF is, and then I go into a bit more details concerning the grant component. I will say a few words how to apply for the grant, and then I will give a floor to colleagues from the EIB, to Marcin and Miha. So without further ado, let's go into the presentation. Public sector loan facility is part of the Just Transition mechanism, which is a key tool of European Green Deal that aims at supporting regions that will be most challenged by achievement of EU climate and energy targets. And the mechanism is composed of three pillars. As you can see on the slide, the Just Transition Fund that provides grants. The second pillar is Just Transition Scheme under InvestEU that supports private investments. And third pillar, Public Sector Loan Facility that leverages public investments. That will be topic of today's presentation. Here on the slide, you can see a map of just transition regions that are eligible for financing under PSLF. These regions were agreed between member states and the Commission, and each of these regions prepared territorial just transition plan that was accepted by the Commission. These plans specify the challenges that each of these regions is facing and how to achieve the climate neutrality, how to overcome the challenges that the regions are facing. The Public Sector Loan Facility is a blending facility. It's composed of a grant and a loan. The grant is provided from the EU budget and is implemented jointly by the European Commission, by DG REGIO, my directorate, and together with SINA, which is executive agency of the Commission. The loan is provided by the European Investment Bank, and it's also managed by the bank. When it comes to the budget available under PSLF, for the grant component, there is available 1.3 billion euro. The bank will provide around 6 to 8 billion euro in loans. According to estimation, these amounts will help to mobilize 6 billion of additional resources, what in total gives 13 to 15 billion euro of mobilized public financing. Now I would like to show you a short video that I think nicely summarizes what PSLF is. Not sure we can hear though the sound.
No, unfortunately, we cannot hear the sound of the video. Yeah, maybe it's a problem of Zoom or, you know.
Okay, so then without the video, maybe the presentation will be shared with attendees, so maybe you will have opportunity to watch it after. I think it's very nice video that nicely summarize what PSLF is about in just 2 minutes. Going into more details about the PSLF. So the objective of PSLF is to support projects that address economic, environmental, and social challenges coming from the transition towards climate and towards achievement of climate and energy targets. On this slide, you can see examples of sectors that are eligible for financing under PSLF. I think for you, the most interesting is the fact that in principle, efficient district heating and cooling networks are eligible. However, as I mentioned, each of the territories eligible for PSLF has their territorial just transition plan. And in these plans, the eligible sectors for financing in the given territory are described. So when a potential beneficiary is interested to apply for a grant, he needs to verify in the territorial just transition plan of a given region if district heating and cooling networks are eligible there. I hope it's clear. If not, we can discuss it after the presentation. And then going into more details on the grant component. So first of all, who can apply for financing? These are, as the name of the facility indicates, public bodies, but also private entities are eligible in case they perform public mission. There's no single definition what this public mission means. It's checked on a case-by-case basis. Nevertheless, the entity needs to have some document, contract that prove this public mission, for example, contract with municipality or other public authorities. I mentioned already the budget. that is available under PSLF. Here, additional information that the budget is divided into national shares. Here on the link, you will be able to access the division of shares per member states and also to see what amounts are still remaining under each of the national envelope. But as you can see, these shares are available only until end of 2025. Because after 2025, in 2026, a new call for proposals will be published without national shares. So it will be based on competitive basis or on first come, first served basis. Additionally, under PSLF, there's available advisory support provided by the InvestEU Advisory Hub. Colleagues from the EIB will provide more information on that. And but the support can be provided for designing, preparation, and implementation of projects, but also on capacity building. I mentioned already that the geographical scope that is eligible under PSLF is the territories that were shown in the map with the adopted territorial just transition plans. There is also a possibility for projects placed outside of these territories in case they bring some benefit to a territory covered by the territorial just transition plan. So there's also an exception. And last important information, how amount of the grant is accounted. So it's not like in a classical case where the amount of grant is dependent on the costs of the project budget. In this case, grant amount is accounted as a percentage of the loan, and it can be 15% or 25% in case of less developed regions. So this is so-called financing non-linked to cost. Now, example of a project budget. So the minimum amount of the project budget is 25 million euro. EIB loan on average is 50% of the project cost. It can be more in less developed regions. However, in case of 50%, it gives a minimum loan amount of 12.5 million euro. In relation to what I said about financing non-linked to cost, in this scenario, the grant amount would be 1.8 million euro or 3.1 in case of less developed regions. Two more important information is that the project to be eligible, it must not generate sufficient streams of revenues. And secondly, it cannot receive support under other union programs. So for example, it cannot receive financing from other cohesion funds programs. And I would like to give you two examples of projects that were already financed by the PSLF. For the moment, we have not signed grant agreement for district heating project, but I hope that these examples will be still useful for you. So the first project is located in Greece. It's a set of 15 smaller projects that were combined together and applied as a loan scheme. And as you can see, the projects relate to different sectors. They are in energy efficiency sector, road infrastructure, healthcare, culture, tourism. A second example is a very interesting project of energy efficient housing in Sweden. The municipality had to face a growing accommodation demand from citizens as a new green sector was built in the city, and there were incoming workers. Therefore, the city needed new accommodation. So the project is a very nice example of how it fits into the overall just transition strategy. Now, a few words about application process. So in order to apply for grants, the application has to be submitted via Funding and Tenders portal. And as this is a blending facility composed of loan and a grant, the application for grant has to be submitted separately to the Commission, and the loan request sent separately to the European Investment Bank. Both institutions separately evaluate the proposals. And once both of them agree to support the project, so it cannot happen that project receives just grant or loan. It's a blending facility. Therefore, both institutions have to give their agreement to support the project. And once both Commission and EIB approve to support the project, the grant agreement and loan agreement can be signed. Concerning the timeline, so the multi-annual call for proposals for grants was published in 2022. As you can see, some of the deadlines to submit already passed. The closest one is very soon. It's on 19 September. So I imagine that's very little time for you to prepare application, but don't worry, there are still three more deadlines next year in January, April, and in September. But there will be even more opportunities because, as I mentioned, a second call for a proposal will be published in 2026. So there will be still some time to apply for financing under PSLF. And last important information for my side is the assessment criteria that the project proposals undergo. So the evaluation process is composed of 2 steps. First step is assessment under admissibility and eligibility criteria. We mentioned already most of them. So of course, the application has to be fully completed. The applicant must be a public law body entity or private body with a public mission. The project has to benefit territory covered by territorial just transition plans. The project cannot generate sufficient revenues. And important thing is that the loan request had to be already submitted to the EIB. The loan didn't have to be approved by the project, that didn't have to be positively approved, or loan didn't have to be signed. Just we need to have information that the applicant already were in touch with the EIB. And after positive assessment under admissibility and eligibility criteria, the proposal is evaluated under award criteria, and there are 2 criteria. The project is evaluated under its relevance and impact, and also the quality of proposal is assessed. Additionally, project can receive bonus point in 3 cases. First one, when the project is located in less developed region. Secondly, when the project directly contributes to achievement of EU climate and energy targets. And thirdly, when the applicant has adopted an decarbonization plan. And that would be all from my side. Here on the presentation, you can find useful links. Here on this slide are support materials that applicants can use when preparing the presentation. And here are some more useful information. And that will be all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Joanna. Thank you for this very insightful and informative presentation. I really ask people to post questions in the Q&A box. I already see one. All the questions will be posed at the end of the whole presentation. So please, in the meantime, don't be shy. Type your question in the box, and then I will ask the presenter. For the moment, after Joanna's presentation, now we have Miha and Marcin that will present the role of the IB in this facility. So Miha, Marcin, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabriele. EIB was mentioned few times, and Marcin and I will walk you through why and how EIB is involved, and how to actually how to obtain the funds available under this public sector loan facility. Starting with introductions, my name is Miha Svent. I am an advisor in Advisory Services Department of the European Investment Bank, based in Luxembourg, and I'm Slovenian national. Marcin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. I'm Marcin Idczak. I work in the technical department of the EIB in the Energy Efficiency and Energy Advisory Division. I'm based in Warsaw office of the bank. I'm Polish. And I mainly focus on advisory side of EIB activities, notably on advisory to projects that are co-financed with EU funds.
Okay, first things first, we will, I have to check if I have control over slides. No, can you press? Okay, we will spend a few minutes only about the EIB to be clear what the EIB is and why actually EIB is involved in this public sector loan facility and just transition mechanism. Then we will dive more deeply into the loan component of the PSLF. Why is this important? That is because the EIB loan, access to EIB loan is a precondition for you to apply to grants. That is a very important element because we've seen people who are applying for grants without talking to EIB first, and you cannot get a grant between the EIB before you get the EIB loan. That is not reciprocal. That means you can always get an EIB loan even if you don't get a grant. So then we'll go into the details of the loan component of the PSLF, and then we will talk about energy sector that is closer to your specialty, your expertise, and we will complete with our the EIB offer of advisory services under this facility and wider in the sector. Next slide, please. So why is the EIB engaged in implementing this just transition mechanism and PSLF? This is because the EIB is a policy bank, is a sort of development bank of the European Union, owned by member states and managed by member states, governed by member states. It has been established along with the European Union from 50s with Treaty of Rome, and it has grown as the same as the European Union has grown up to today, where according to its volume, it's the largest multilateral development bank in the world. 90% of its business is done within the European Union, but it operates globally on all continents. Next slide, please. Yeah, the EIB can act as a policy bank, going into projects where the market, the commercial banks usually cannot go. These are longer maturity financing. These are financing of projects that usually don't bring immediately and right away a return, that are more difficult in financing and in implementation and so on. And the EIB is able to do that on the very convenient and convenient conditions of financing. And this is enabled by its AAA rating, on the basis of which EIB can offer very conveniently, can borrow cheap money on the market. And these favorable conditions are then transferred to, not to its profit, it doesn't make a profit, but it's transferred to its clients. This means that the financing from EIB is usually very convenient for the borrowers. On the other hand, it does not, let's say, compete with commercial banks, but as I said, it invests in projects that are compliant with European Union policy. We'll talk about this in a minute. The bank is run by more than 4,000 people now. Most of us are based in Luxembourg, but there are offices in almost all member states. You always have usually have an office in your capital city, plus offices around the world to be closer, to be as close as possible to projects. What is also important to know is that we have that the EIB is not just providing finance, but is providing also technical expertise. Actually, as an investment bank, for every project, the EIB engages its own engineers and experts in practically every field where the bank invests. You have engineers and economists and financial experts who would then evaluate the projects before it is going to be implemented. Next slide, please. So I mentioned that the EIB is a policy bank. There are several policies, as you all know, that the European Union pursues. They are presented here in 4 categories: innovation, digital, human capital. That means, for example, schools and hospitals. Sustainable energy. This is your field of expertise, and natural resources more broadly. Lately, we invest a lot into cities and urban environments, for example, housing projects, and then finally corporate and SME sector. On the yearly basis, the EIB invests between 60 and 80 billion euros every year, which supports projects in excess of let's say 200 billion at least each year. And finally, there is one more slide with figures to show, I think. With the green agenda of the European Union, the bank also very firmly and concretely committed to green financing. There is a very concrete target to support 1 trillion of green investments by 2030, and the bank is very well on the way to achieve these targets, because there is interest and also pressure from the public to invest more into green investments across the European Union and globally. Cohesion is another important priority for the bank. The bank invests a lot of efforts, not only financing but also advisory in cohesion part of the European Union. The cohesion being defined by the level of GDP comparing to the European Union average. Next slide, please. So much about the EIB, and now about the PSLF. One component of the PSLF. Joanna already explained how the overall facility works and how the grant component works. As I mentioned, the loan component is a precondition to get the grant, and I'll walk quickly through how this loan component works, what kinds of loans, and so on. I cannot progress the slides. Thank you. Joanna already also presented the 3 pillars, three elements of public sector loan facility, or just transition mechanism. Public sector loan facility is only part of it. So pillar 1, just quickly, is just transition fund. This is grant funds. These are projects that follow the usual procedure of cohesion funds. Projects to be funded by cohesion funds. The EIB contribution here may be or may not be to complement this grant funding. These grants are managed by managing authorities, which means typically by ministries or regional authorities in your member state that are publishing calls for proposals for grant funding of the project. Pillar 2 is InvestEU guarantee. There is no grants here. This is only a guarantee. typically used by for private sector projects, where the bank let's say improves the risk profile of the projects that could be then financed. But again, there is no grant associated with that. The third pillar is the one that we are talking about today, which is a combination of the EIB loan and European Commission's grants. Down below, in 3 boxes, you see Jaspers and you see InvestEU Advisory Hub. This is what we call mandates. In more simple words, this is advisory support for your projects, regardless of which pillar and what funding source. The EIB is providing this advisory service either through Jaspers or different other mandates that we will talk about in a minute. Next slide, please. So here I try to summarize just in few lines what the PSLF and its loan component is about. So we said already a couple of times that this is blending, that is a combination of loan and grant, and it is destined for public sector. Joanna already mentioned that there is that private companies can also assess if they run a public sector mission. This is typically for utility companies who have either contract or based on regulation, they provide either power or water, things like that to the local communities. So it's public sector. It must address market failures, provide additionality, and be bankable. This is actually the EIB, the bank's condition, where the bank is allowed to finance projects. So the bank is allowed to finance, as I mentioned before, is allowed to finance projects which comply with the European Union policy and addresses market failures, which means actually in practice projects that cannot be usually financed by commercial banks. The EIB does not impose any additional criteria for its lending under the PSLF. So eligibility of projects. So if you ask yourself, is my project eligible? What kind of sectors does it support? The answer to this question is in territorial just transition plan prepared by either your government or your regional authority. And in those plans, there is a specific list of sectors listed. For you as experts in heat and power, would be the first step to look into this just transition plans for your region to make sure that the project that you are considering is covered by this plan. Then there is in terms of combining grants with loans. As Joanna already mentioned, but I think it's worth highlighting that this is kind of, a novel approach from the Commission and the bank, where the grant amount is not based on, based on actual cost that you usually have to report on and justify the event and they apply for grant. No. The amount of grant is defined at the very beginning, before you even start doing your project. And it's purely based on European Investment Bank loan. So it's either 15 or 25% of the loan, not of the total costs. Whether it is 15 or 25% depends on the level of development of the region where the project takes place. For less developed regions, which means I think less than 75% of the GDP, less than 75% of the European average, then this region then qualifies as less developed, i.e. Is entitled for 25% grant on top of the loan amount. Minimum loan amount is defined as 12.5 million, and for intermediate loans, I will explain in a minute what this means, is 1 million. These minimum amounts are minimum eligible amounts. This does not mean that when you have a project with this amount of loan that is already acceptable and everything is fine. Each project has to be very thoroughly evaluated and assessed by the European Investment Bank before we arrive together to a sensible amount of money to be borrowed. The EIB usually finances up to 50% of the project costs. On top of this 50%, you can count an addition of the grant component, and the remaining amount has to be financed from the promoter's own resources. It cannot be combined, as Joanna also mentioned, with another EU funding. So it has to be, in practical terms, it has to be a different project than the one that you are applying for Pillar 1, Just Transition Fund, for example. And back to EIB financing. EIB is looking for scale also. The EIB would prioritize projects with bigger scale for two reasons. One is that it is not suited actually for smaller projects. It doesn't have local branches, and another reason is that the EIB has policy objectives, and it can achieve some results in terms of policy only by investing in larger scale projects. That's why. Next slide. So this is the offer of different financing options from the EIB under the PSLF, or generally for public sector, all put together in one single slide. It has a lot of small text. It looks complicated, but essentially what it says is that on the left side, we are looking at larger scale investments when you have one project of suitable size, minimum 25 million at least, and you have one promoter and one loan. Now, in the middle, framework loans, and on the right side, intermediate loans. This is what the EIB has developed to support smaller scale projects. For example, if the municipality or a region has an investment program consisting of smaller projects, let's say school of 1 million, and then a road of 5 million, and then something of 25 million, and another hospital upgrade of let's say 2 million. What we could do from the EIB is to have a framework loan with this regional authority or municipality, where we say, okay, this is the amount, roughly total amount of the loan that you will use over several years for different smaller projects. And then you draw down this money as you go, and you finance small projects as they are getting prepared over time. So in this way, we can also finance smaller projects, but we need a larger scale aggregator to sign a loan with. And finally, on the right side, intermediate loans. This is what we typically sign with local banks, with commercial banks, who will then on lend under certain conditions to smaller municipalities. And the minimum amount of the loan is 1 million here, which means the project size of 2 million can already be financed through intermediate loans if there is an intermediary bank in existing and has a loan amount signed in the member state. One more slide, I think. This is a repetition of what Joanna said, but important message here is that please come to talk to European Investment Bank first before you apply for the grant. Because how the whole process starts is that we need to have an idea of what your project is about, and then we proceed towards assessing it. We see whether there is any advisory assistance needed. So to bring the project to the stage when we can say, okay, we know what the project is about. We know quite in details how it would look like, and we know the loan amount. On this basis, you can then apply to grants to the European Commission. The Commission will then ask us the first question: is this the project that this promoter has developed together with you? Yes or no? That's why it's important that you discuss with the bank first. And the other reason, of course, is that the grant amount is defined based on the EIB loan and not based on the total project cost. One more slide, I think. Yeah, EIB in energy sector. We'll now dive deeper into this and spend some time on advisory. And here is where I leave the floor to my colleague Marcin.
Yeah, thank you, Miha. So let me just continue on the EIB in the energy sector. So next slide, please. So as Miha was saying, like we have an ambition. EIB has an ambition to be called a climate bank, and we committed to invest more funds into green, sustainable projects, and energy is obviously one of them. So it's one of the key areas where EIB is investing in green, sustainable projects. And only last year, EIB has provided 21 billion euro to energy sector projects, and this includes 8 billion in energy efficiency, mainly in buildings, 9 billion in renewables, and around 4 billion in smart grids. And energy efficiency typically includes also investments in district heating. And it's important also to say that in the energy sector, our lending is governed by EIB energy lending policy. So there is a document that you can find on our website, and basically it specifies what we can and what we cannot finance in the energy sector. So we obviously focus on financing energy efficiency, renewables, sustainable projects, and we cannot finance, for instance, projects that are based on coal. Next slide, please. So here you can find some references of projects we have funded lately in the energy sector. So as you can see, we work across a number of countries. These are just selected references. We work with different companies, well, mainly across Europe, across the EU. So these would be projects that fall in the district heating sector, but also, I mean, projects that we fund also with other energy sector technologies. Next slide, please. Yeah, and of course, for you, it's interesting and important to understand what we do and what we can do in district heating, as this is the focus of today's presentation. And in the district heating sector, also energy lending policy applies. And of course, there are things that we cannot do in district heating, but I believe that actually most of the things that you're actually planning in your companies, we can support. So in terms of sources of heat that we can finance, this would be heating and cooling technologies using electricity, peak reserve boilers operating on natural gas, or even oil if gas is not available. So even if we basically deviate from fossil fuels, gas boilers are still the technology that we can support. We can, of course, support sources of heat using renewable energy, such as geothermal, solar, or biomass. Also, heat sources running on low carbon fuels, for instance, on hydrogen. We finance also enabling the use of waste heat. And the last point is also important that we can support also combined heat and cooling and power. So basically, we can finance CHPs, high efficiency cogeneration, provided that that the project meets the emission factor of 250 gram CO2 per kilowatt hour. So if you comply with this factor, then we can finance also CHP based on natural gas. And in terms of networks, we can support the construction of new networks, as well as rehabilitation or extension of existing networks. And in terms of networks, we also can support thermal storage facilities, which we basically just treat as part of district heating network. Next slide, please. So here are some examples of the district heating projects that we have financed recently. So the references in Poland are, for instance, the towns of Opole, Bydgoszcz, Lublin, Krakow. In Lithuania, we have funded district heating projects in Kaunas and Vilnius. In the Netherlands, in Alkmaar and Dordrecht. In Hungary, in Budapest, and in Czech Republic, in Brno. So this would typically be projects in larger towns. And the typical scope of investments includes rehabilitation or extension of existing network, high efficiency cogeneration, biomass boilers, geothermal heat, and peak gas boilers. And the investment cost of these projects is typically around 100 million euro. And we would typically finance 50% of the capex. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is about lending, but we also wanted to mention our advisory role. So basically, EIB provides loan, but next to the loans, we also offer advisory support to our clients, which basically the main idea is to support well, the preparation of projects so that eventually EIB could provide lending to these projects. So next slide, please. So our advisory support goes basically throughout the whole project cycle. So we can support the upstream work, such as policy and program advice, preliminary project assessment. So this is even the activities that start before even the project is basically defined. So strategies, well, policies, whatever required. Then we also support project preparation cycle, and we have in our portfolio technical advice, financial advice, or we can provide also consultancy assessment, and then we can also provide support throughout the actual implementation of the project, including basically things like monitoring. And our role is also to build capacity of our counterparts so that they could work in the future in more independent manner. Next slide, please. So here I wanted to tell you that, of course, I mean, today we have met in the context of public sector loan facility, and the public sector loan facility includes European Commission grants and EIB loans, but there is also a technical assistance component embedded in public sector loan facility, and this is financed under the InvestEU Advisory Hub. So EIB and the European Commission collaborate under this InvestEU Advisory Hub, and this is basically a set of advisory services that we can provide to our clients, and a chunk of this InvestEU Advisory Hub effort is concentrated on supporting projects that will be applying to public sector loan facility. But I just wanted to tell you that apart from this dedicated envelope of support that we can offer to public sector loan facility, we also have a number of other advisory programs that we can use to support our clients, yeah, in the context also of district heating. So these are all typically partnerships between European Commission and the EIB, and the objective is to support project preparation. So as I was saying, there is InvestEU Advisory Hub that supports PSLF projects, but we also have other facilities such as Jaspers and Target, and this is where I work. This is expert TA, as we call it. So it means that you have experts working at the EIB that can provide you with the assistance, either themselves or with the support of consultants that we would hire, and we could provide an element of technical assistance and of an advisory to a project promoter. So Jasper's mandate focuses on supporting projects that plan to apply for EU funding under European Regional Development Fund, Cohesion Fund, and Just Transition Fund. So this is the pillar one that Miha has mentioned. We have a target mandate that focuses on supporting coal regions. So basically, these are also JTF regions, but in a bit wider geographical context that we can support. And important to mention that this assistance is free of charge. And then one other facility, technical assistance facility that I wanted to mention is also ELENA financial. It's a financial technical assistance facility. Basically, while in Jaspers and Target or InvestEU Advisory Hub, we provide you with experts that provide you with assistance. Under ELENA, we give you money that you can use to hire on your own, basically the expertise that you need. So we can cover up to 90% of eligible project preparation cost. And this technical assistance facility can also be used to support the preparation and implementation of district heating projects. So overall, I would say that you have a wide range of technical assistance and advisory offered by the EIB. There is an envelope focusing on PSLF, but there are also other facilities which may overlap or basically which may be used in a complementary manner to support your district heating projects. Next slide, please. Yeah, and here are some examples from Miha again. So I leave the floor to Miha to present this slide.
Yeah, this is a list of advisory engagement actually in different projects that are either destined to or already reached the PSLF funding. Unfortunately, until today, we don't have any project yet in the district heating sector. Although there are few that we are considering, and we are trying to help put together a financing proposal. Now we are engaged, as Marcin said, from policy area to actual implementation. So the first two examples from Greece and Bulgaria actually started with very high level strategic advice of what to do and how to do, and which projects to identify for funding under this facility. The Western Macedonia case in Greece was already shown by Joanna, and now we are working also in Bulgaria with the government to see how we can best, get the financing mobilized to transpose the region that is moving away from coal mining to different sectors. Continuing, we also engage in market assessment to be able, in Romania, for example, and in Portugal, to be able to identify projects in these eligible regions that would potentially fit under this funding. All these services, by the way, I provided free of charge for public sector entities. And then we have a more concrete project program development engagement in France and Cyprus and in Spain, where we help the authorities develop urban and regional mobility upgrades. For example, we talk about, we support tram lines extension, we support transition of local mobility, of regional transport into more green fuel options. Then for a very specific project with power distribution company in Romania, we help them with very detailed planning of financial modeling for the project financing. This is where we already signed the project, but we are now looking to financially structure it in the way that will be most beneficial for the beneficiary. And in Spain and France and Sweden, we've been involved in actually hands-on support of how to fill in the grant application form for PSLF. This is on the basis of existing financing arrangement already with these beneficiaries who already signed a loan and have a project and everything is fine, or only need a little bit of assistance in applying for the grants. And then we have a case in Czechia where we are developing an advisory assistance to implement the advisory program. This is under the framework loan arrangement. If you remember, there is a city which has a number of smaller projects to implement, but they have limited implementation capacity. So what we do is try to help them, bring in some consultants to help them manage the projects actually. So this is kind of summary of where advisory is all involved in implementing the PSLF projects. Back to Marcin.
Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so here are some examples of projects that we have supported with technical assistance, with advisory services under JASPERS or target mandates. So to give you an example, in the context of EU funds, in the previous financial perspective, we have supported the preparation of major district heating renovation projects in Zagreb and Bucharest. So these were like multi-million euro investments focusing on renovation of networks. They were applying for EU funds co-funding, and we have supported them in the process of preparing the funding application, preparing the feasibility study and cost-benefit analysis, and we have basically facilitated the process for these projects with also including colleagues from the Commission in basically making successful applications. So these were what we call major projects in Zagreb and Bucharest, but there were also some smaller projects that we have also supported in these two countries, in the municipalities of Iași, Bacău, Focșani, Oradea, Remitzu, Vâlcea, Timișoara, Reșița, and Botoșani in Romania, and in Split, Rijeka, Velika Gorica, Osijek, and Slavonski Brod in Croatia. So these projects that were non-major, because these major projects, they follow a certain particular procedure, but we have also worked over the funding applications for these smaller projects. And lately we have been carrying out also the carbonization options analysis for a few district heating systems. So basically, it's an analysis where we investigate the current situation of our district heating systems, and then we try to set a path of how the system could fully decarbonize by 2050, and we analyze the different options that are there on the side of network and on the side of generation to make these systems more efficient and eventually to go to full decarbonization. And such studies we've recently carried out in Nováky in Slovakia, in Velenie in Slovenia, and in the town of Brzeg in Poland. Next slide, please. So this was Jasper. So again, Jaspers and Target, these are the facilities where we provide the assistance, the support in person, while we also have Elena facility where we provide you with grant that you can use to hire the assistance or the staff on your own to prepare and then implement your project. So we have also some examples here of district heating projects supported with Elena. So for instance, there is this national integrator of investment processes in district heating companies in Poland with KAPE. KAPE basically is a company that benefits from Elena grant, and KAPE is also basically helping preparing district heating projects in smaller municipalities in Poland. They have some 30 projects in their portfolio, so they prepare feasibility studies and also funding applications for these beneficiaries in Poland. We have a district heating project in Purmerend, in a Dutch town where a number of investments is planned and implemented to make the system more sustainable. And eventually we also have in our portfolio a project in Vienna where the district heating company goes for geothermal and storage facility. And that's it, I think. Next slide is the end already. So basically, just to recap, on the AB side, I think we can say that we, in the context of district heating and public sector loan facility, we have basically obviously the grant support is provided by the Commission. We have the loan that is provided by the EIB, but on top of that, you also have advisory services that can be used to prepare your project. And to give you an example, it may start with Jasper's assistance to prepare your decarbonization options analysis. That would basically, set the strategy and identify a set of investments that will take you there eventually. And for a very specific piece of investment, you can have it prepared by the InvestEU Advisory Hub, your public sector loan facility application, and this piece of the element of the overall strategy can be supported eventually with the PSLF facility. So that's it on my side, at least. I don't know if Miha, you want to have a final word, and then I see we have some questions too.
Yeah, maybe just to say. To give a little bit of advice or what the next steps could be. I would say if you have a project that you think could also be financed with repayable funds, not only with the grants, then you're welcome to contact us. I mean, in any case, if you have a project that you like to be discussed, it doesn't cost you anything. You drop us an email and we will discuss. There is no formal application procedure to approach the EIB. And then what type of support you need, if this is a potentially financeable projects or not, we can help you think about this from the onset. Yeah, I already checked a little bit the first few questions. Thanks very much for starting the discussion, and maybe I can already now answer first two. So the EIB does not upfront offer financing packages. That means we don't offer fixed, interest rates and conditions and maturities and so on. What we can say in principle, the lending conditions are very favorable. Interest rates are low. We cannot say how much. It all depends on the risk of the project. And the maturities are long. Typically, for infrastructure projects, I can say the length of financing is like 20 or even more years, depending on economic life of the project. But where the discussion starts is the project. We have to fully understand the project from technical engineering point of view, from financial, economic point of view, market point of view. in order to be financed, and then also attach financing conditions to it. So feel free to reach out. We are happy to start discussing your project.
Thank you very much, Miha and Marcin. It was a really, really and very insightful presentation with a lot of detail. Thanks for that. Also, thanks to the EIB in general for financing so many district heating related projects. Even though, of course, the public sector loan facility potential is not really used so far. So I also I would say suggest the audience, people that are potentially have some project in the pipeline, to also look at this scheme that is very useful. Thank you also, Miha, for anticipating me and replying to some question that we got in terms of the loans condition. So yes, we have other question, but before, maybe I have one question that could be interesting for everyone. So yes, you said, Miha and Marcin, that we can approach the EIB without any formal application, but practically how people can really reach you out, not you personally, but in general, because of course for the commission, I think we have the participant portal, we can reply to the call for proposal, and everything is like formalized and guided. For the EIB, sometime at national and European level, it's a little bit more complicated. People don't know who to speak with. So practically, me and Marcin, how people can approach the EIB?
I would suggest two ways. One is to go to EIB website and find a contact point. The other one is to go through InvestEU Advisory Hub that Joanna mentioned. This is one of the mandates that the EIB is implementing, and this is an entry point run by the Commission. If you, I'm not sure if you provided links, but if you Google InvestEU Advisory Hub, you will find a link to provide basic information about inquiries about your projects, and from that point on, we'll get in touch and discuss with you.
Yes, I confirm that the link to InvestEU Advisory Hub is in the presentation, so you can find it there.
Super.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah, I basically represent well the advisory side of the bank. Jaspers, Target, and the RENA facilities. So, in case anyone is interested, we also have specific websites on the EIB main portal. But I would also advise just to use my email to contact me and ask questions if you like.
Thank you very much, Marcin, for this presentation. Okay, I'm gonna go in order of question. Some of them were already replied directly. Can you share presentation with us? Yes, we're gonna share the presentation and also the recording of the webinar, so you can rewatch until boredom. So it's on the Euroheat Power YouTube channel, and it will be published in the coming days. Okay, a few questions regarding the just transition territory. So first, Joanna, here it's more on you. What are the eligible area for the project? Only the JTF areas? And another question is quite similar. Is it possible to get my area in the JTF territory map? So can you elaborate a little bit more about these just transition regions? And I add personally, what does it mean that is a project benefit in another region that is not a JTF? So maybe it's not very clear. So can you elaborate a little bit more about what is JT region and how this works in relation with the public sector? I know that you already mentioned it, but people are quite interested in that.
Yes, of course. Yeah, no, it's a very good question, very important one. So I will start with a broader picture. So the purpose behind the just transition mechanism was to support the regions that's going to be most challenged by the transition to climate neutral economy. So these are usually the coal mine region or high intensive industry regions. Therefore, you've seen the map where in green these regions were marked. The territories were agreed between member states and the Commission. So in the current programming period, it won't be possible to add any other territory. And when it comes moving now to eligibility of PSLF. So yes, first of all, the projects to be eligible has to be either located in such a territory that is covered by the territorial just transition plan, this territory that was agreed between the Commission and the member states. And another possibility is to finance project that is placed outside of such a territory, but that brings some benefit to the territory covered by the territorial just transition plan. So maybe the easiest is to give some concrete example. This could be, for example, a railway project that connects some other cities with the territorial just transition plan, or maybe a housing project that provides accommodation for citizens of or workers that work or live or in the just transition region.
Okay, thank you very much, Joanna. I think concerning this heating and cooling, maybe a little precision on my side. We all know that these heating networks are local, urban infrastructure, so it's quite difficult to imagine an external indirect benefit to other regions. But it's not really true because, of course, in the light of the system integration with the power grids, probably we can think about an external benefit to the power grid that, of course, we know the power grid also can go beyond some regions. So I think that can be discussed with the national governments of your with the audience, I'll say, origins. One thing, so the JT, the just transition plan are drafted by the national governments in coordination with the European Commission. And this heating and cooling, in our case, should be in these plans, right? To be eligible for the public sector loan facility. Is it right?
Yes, exactly. Like it also, it, of course, doesn't have to be literally set district heating and cooling, but maybe it can be under energy transformation or this kind of formulations as well.
Thank you very much. That's very important. And also for people that are coming from National Association here or public authority in the audience, I really suggest you to liaise with your respective ministries to, I'll say, influence the just transition plans for the coming years to see if the this heating or say energy efficiency for heating is included, because otherwise you cannot be eligible. Okay, thank you. One question is still on the heating and cooling is, does the PSLF apply to the construction of new networks to connect new customers? So greenfield. I guess yes, but I don't know. Joanna, Marcin, you wanna reply? So is greenfield project eligible? So from zero, from scratch, in the case?
Well, according to the EIB lending criteria, basically, we can also finance greenfield district heating projects.
Okay, thank you.
Like on the Commission side, I would have to make sure with responsible colleagues, but I also don't see a problem in principle.
Probably the loan and the grant will be much higher because, of course, we need to start something from zero.
Exactly.
But if the greenfield project is in a just transition region, of course, is eligible. A question that I think was already replied: are thermal storage in this heating system included? I guess yes, it was in the EPP slides. So yes, thermal storage is included. Okay. I guess also this was already replied. What is the main purpose of the public sector loan facility loans versus the standard EIB financing? Are the conditions more favorable?
No, the EIB offers the standard public sector loan products. So, in other words, there is no special condition, neither special financing arrangement or anything like that. And this also means that your project, even if it's not eligible for the grant, can still be financed by the EIB.
This is very important. Thank you, Miha, because of course people could be, I would say, discouraged and say, "Oh my God, the heating is not in the just transition plan of my region," but that doesn't mean that you cannot be financed in general. So maybe you cannot use the public sector loan facility, but still you can approach the EIB to be financed with other loans schemes. That's very important. Thank you. Maybe one thing that it was not really clear or could be complicated to people. You presented Miha and Marcin the different types of loans. So how this decision, how you decide which kind of type you will be used for a certain project? It's a negotiation between the project proposer, the project promoter. It's your decision. How it works a little bit.
One important element that we look at when deciding about the type of financing, is it intermediate, is it a framework, or is it investment direct loan, is the size. As simple as that. If the project has a bigger size, then we will engage directly with the client and negotiate the condition. If the project is of smaller size, we then look if it is possible to aggregate it together with other smaller projects in the same region, for example, or if there is an interested intermediary bank present who would then on lend to these smaller projects.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we have two very similar questions, so we're gonna pick up them together. So we said that the project for public sector loan facility cannot benefit from other EU funding. Does it mean that if a project is co-funded by national funding, this is possible for like national funding?
Yes, national and regional subsidies on programs are fine, are allowed, and I think most of the projects that were already financed, they use national or regional resources.
And if the national and regional resources come from the cohesion policy, is still eligible or not?
No, in this case, these are EU resources.
Okay, so please be careful in which kind of financing are you receiving from the member state, because of course can come indirectly from the Commission still.
Maybe something to add here is also that typically the EIB financing is up to 50% of the total project cost. It may go even higher than that. In cases of investment loan for PSLF, actually it can go over 50%. The upper limit being 90% of combined EIB and EU grants as a ceiling.
Okay, thank you very much, Miha. Okay, we have just two other questions left. Probably I will pick up the second one and then the first one, just because probably the second one is okay. Also B1. Okay, so the attendee says we are a geothermal private company that develops and operates geothermal facilities. Would we qualify as public if we enter into contracts with municipal utility companies? So we will be considered a private company with a public mission.
Yes. So as I said, this issue is assessed on a case-by-case basis. It's not entirely clear for me from this question that enter into contracts with municipal utility companies.
Well, like
you mean the
contracts
to serve them for the citizens of this municipality, or just for the municipality?
Probably, I think it means that the public authority give a concession to the operator or to this private company to build a facility or to run or develop a geothermal facility. They were missioned by public authority to develop this kind of project. I think this is the question, probably. If I'm wrong, please write it in the Q&A. So it should be yes, right? Oh, case by case.
It's case by case. Of course, I like what I'm saying now. It cannot be binding, and if it's indeed as you explained, Gabriele, I would say that this this case would be yes. And of course, if you have questions like this about the public service mission or any other questions, you can also send email to the functional mailbox that is in the useful links in the presentation. It's a Cinea mailbox. And you can send questions like this also to this mailbox.
Thank you very much, Joanna. Okay, last two questions. Natasha asks, can Elena and Target be used for Western Balkans? Can TA be used for framework investment? I guess for the IB. Marcin, Miha?
Marcin, over to you. Target and Elena.
Target and Elena, yes. It's basically EU only, right? I mean, Elena is EU only, and Target basically is related to just transition as well. So Target is also EU only.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Western Balkans countries that are not in the EU cannot benefit from the EB, but I remind people about the EBRD. EBRD is another institution that finances a lot on Balkans outside the EU. So I hope you can be financed anyway. Last one.
Actually, sorry, Gabriele, EIB is also very active in Western Balkans, and it typically supports this kind of infrastructure projects, along with EBRD also very often.
Sorry, I was referring to the scheme that she mentioned.
Yeah.
Of course, the EIB finance a lot on Balkans. So
exactly.
Thank you for this.
The PSLF is only for the EU member states. However, there is a just transition program initiative also available for countries outside the European Union, although the mechanism is working differently.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, it's an important presentation. Biwa asks, do you have a ready-made magazine article describing the facility that we could translate and publish? I guess Joanna.
This is a very timely question because just this morning we published article on our REGIO Commission website. I will share it with you, Gabriele, so you can send it to participant. I think it's a very nice, interesting article where where included are also testimonies of the beneficiaries of existing projects. And apart from this, we also have a brochure that is very comprehensive, containing both description of the grant and loan component, and it's already translated into all EU official languages. So the link to it is included in the presentation, but I will also share it with you, Gabriele.
Thank you very much, Joanna. Yes, please share it with me so I can forward it to the audience. Okay. If there are no further questions, we can, I'll say, give you a couple of information before closing the webinar. In the meanwhile, thank you, Marcin, Miha, and Joanna. Just a little information. We, as Euroheat Power, we are organizing a policy summit in November. Can you change the slides, please? 5th and 6th November 2024. It's called Bring Heat Home. In the view of the upcoming new Commission mandate, we're going to discuss a lot on policy here in Brussels about heating and cooling, in particular district heating and cooling. We're going to have policymakers, operators, industry. So 5th and 6th November is the early bird to register, so you're going to pay less. So you are much more welcome to join us in this very important policy-related event. That was my only addition. Thank you very much. Thank you again, the IB and the Commission, Marcin, Miha, Joanna. We finished very timely. That's great. Congratulations also on you for being in time with your presentation. I repeat, it will be recorded. The presentation will be shared, and any kind of for the information you need, you can contact me, Marcin, Miha, and Joanna to have all the necessary information. Thank you. I wish you a great day, and see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.